It was a unanimous decision. I mean, there was absolutely no doubt in all juries' minds that we were looking for content, for a piece that had something to say. And this piece really stood out in terms of what it had to say, in terms of what it had to address.
Yes, it was made 2 years ago on the peak of the spy activities in Germany. And it's a piece which deals with the fact that a spy who is listening to you have to listen to you, so you can talk back. And this is also the title of the piece. It's called "Can You Hear Me?" And it enables people, especially around the Brandenburg Gate, to more or less bring information into the American and British embassy via very nice kind of DIY-made antenna. So it enables people to talk to the spies and asking them questions. There was a very nice question I remember was, "Hey spy, how do you twist your life story and which want to tell you to your grandchildren or
yes,
something?"
That's right. Yeah.
But even it became a kind of depot of whistleblowing information, and they gathered information even from the German Parliament classified files. So it really is dealing with this kind of moment in time where we have to talk back.
Yeah, and of course it positioned itself in that environment. The most important thing is it took itself out of a gallery and actually went and occupied the space that was at the intersection of all the spy interference. So it disrupted it, it infiltrated. It created a beautiful piece that was, it's this kind of wonderful thing of low-tech manufacturing of something that is really eye-catching, that everybody notices, and then they have to make sense of. And they have to start a dialogue. And this is what we find that it's really interesting about what interaction is doing. I mean, that interaction is completely pervasive. And the tools that we now have available allow us to plant ourselves into these situations and start a dialogue with each one of these areas of human activity in situ, which is really interesting now.
Yes, there was no moment where we said what is interactive art, because in a way the term became obsolete. Therefore, also the Ars Electronica decided to make a plus behind it,
That's
which
right.
opens the whole thing up.
Yeah.
So we don't want to talk about interactive art anymore. It's a category. It's fine. People know what they have to submit. But the definition of interactivity, how it came up in the 80s and 90s, coming from psychology as a term, then being coined only as a term in media art, is obsolete, as we all know. But it's a nice reference to where Ars Electronica came from and where our category came from.
Well, it's become pervasive. It's completely pervasive. So it occupies all of the spaces of human activity now, as we just mentioned with the main piece. And of course, you can decide to interact with politics, and you can decide to interact. This piece is interacting with politics and economy, and actually, even sort of issues like the refugee crisis, etc. By opening this dialogue, right? Mm-hmm. So it actually gives you the tools now to implant yourself in science, or amongst social issues, and really contribute to the questioning and to the revealing of certain aspects of these areas that perhaps otherwise you may not. And so, it's pervasive. So in that sense, we feel it's like computer art in a sense that, it's not...
So we had so many, let's say, subcategories, and a subcategory under the term of probably media art or new media art. So we awarded very poetic kind of mechatronic pieces who are organizing stones in space. We have a dance piece which is driven by software. Yeah. We have poetic pieces where things are happening out in the forest, and it goes up to hardware-coded algorithm who creates music in physical space. So it's a whole variety, more or less, and there's nothing. Let's say there's not a very specific tendency at the moment which you can observe in terms of how people or how artists express with new media. I think the whole category or the whole medium became matured, and it's now used very, let's say, very normally.
Absolutely. And if anything, if you look at the collective of the project we have in front of us, it does give you a really nice reflection of where we're all at. As a kind of, in terms of our concerns as human beings, in terms of what worries us, which is what we should be doing. But really as a collection, that's really quite it's actually as a collection is quite, really very powerful, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, so it's this kind of, let's say, variety in strategies of how to convey information in a wide variety of topics. So compared to, let's say, 15 years ago, computational was the big thing. Computational art was the big thing. It's not really something which stood out this year. So it was also integrated in all, and let's say embraced in all forms of communication. So we would say there is nothing which can be specifically put out and brought onto a silver tablet.
No, it is a collection of the collective thought, I think, of all of these things. They do come across as powerful in their collection, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
I think we've all felt that in the jury. But it actually says something about where this whole area has matured to. Yeah. And the medium is not the focus, of course, anymore. Yeah.
Let's start with the second part of the question. There is no new way, so nothing which stood out. And actually, I had been in several juries over the last 15 years, and it's the first time where we didn't had one piece which really stood out and had been a kind of new paradigm shift in our field. So it goes with what we mentioned before. It is matured, it's now on a good quality, but we haven't seen one piece which really surprised us.
But that's not necessarily, don't take it as a bad thing. It's like when you're inventing a language, and then you invent a new term, and you get excited about it, and you invent another new term, and then the language becomes fluent. And you can start talking beyond the actual analysis of the terms of the language. And this language has really got to the point where we can totally develop the discourse now, and that's what's exciting about it.
Yeah. The grammar is done, and now you can write poems or textbooks.
Absolutely. And it's beautiful. Yeah.
Well, in the digital community category, we saw beautiful projects, very good causes, but we're also looking for something that would sort of have a meaning outside of the specific community itself, that would be helping other people to understand the transition that we're in. So that's why we chose for P2P Foundation, who is really leading the whole concept of commons transition, bringing resources, people, ideas together, and it's a big help for other people that are actually moving into other parts of society, bringing the knowledge of the digital communities into fields of economy, of cities, of governments.
Many of this aspect was clear after a couple of hours, and every community have the potential to be a digital community, so we don't have to separate it. And key issue for us was who owns it, who is the basic aspect about the community. Is it a single ego? Is it a community? Is it a company? So we really looked, and the choice of the 15 is a good representing of the ownership is also creates a quite a community, and it's not only based on any commercial aspects or on single persons. So that was a key issue one. We always touched also on very sensitive aspects of gender sensitives, and we go more in the way of personalities and how it touch humans' personalities. And that was quite a main issue. Or that what we had. Something else?
Well, I think we were very happily surprised also by the bot, because it was a sort of like playful idea.
Yeah.
What is a community? Can a community become an artificial intelligence that operates as one? And so we also were happy to have a little bit more humor and parody in it, because it's very, very serious business, digital communities. And of course, a lot of people addressed the issues for refugees, and there are beautiful projects, very, very important projects there. So we try to balance it in our own choices, to have some of the hardcore challenges of our times, some more things which were about more like generic solutions for the transition that we're in and the collapse of the capital system. And of course also more the joyful, playful projects that sort of make a little bit fun out of the idea that communities are better than anything else.
Yeah, and then another aspect was definitely also to see this can also take care about elderly cultural behavior, what we now can create a new community and put a new awareness behind it. Or we have, next to the joy aspect, what was and then fun aspect was also, let's address diverse aspects, and let's see the opportunity in digital community can have also a big awareness on the side community, but bring it on the right spot.
Well, we have seen very targeted, very simple but very effective projects on the macro level, as the phrase book, where people, refugees, people want to help, they don't speak the same language. So it's a very specific question and a very appropriate solution that this group of people built together. But we have seen also projects which addressing the more macro issues, post-capitalism questions, the collapse of systems, and how can we bring what we learn on this macro level to the macro level. So I think this was one of the discussions, micro, macro. And I think we also think that this is the new generation of digital communities, that they take up also larger issues. And there's enough learnings in the digital communities to come up with viable solutions. And that could have a lot of impact in the future. So we need, of course, the macro, because these are the real practices. The lessons learned can be brought to society at large.
Another big aspect was what we discussed on the side and as well in the jury was about this big power to have a new kind of a community mirror, you know. So we are used since a couple of 100 years to have a mirror of our personality, and but now we have a mirror of our community. So that definitely brings a new dimension to us, because we see, oh, we have much more common in mind, or we are not so singular as we think we are, and we are not maybe so much an individual as we think as we are. So we see we have more dimension as only being driven as an individual person. So we have a new mirror of a community. That's, I think, was a very interesting thought. So first of all, I don't believe in an ideal, because otherwise you're limited yourself and community self. But so I would never run on a personal level for an ideal, because you run in a helpless situation. But be very aware, and you know the digital aspects gives you a lot of opportunity of have a fake reality and fake it. You know, people who are masters this way of communication can give you a bolder image, and you are really think what's behind and look precisely about the stuff. The most aspect what I find out now after digital communities, the next thing is I would like to make traveling now and visit them and feel the impact. So it makes a desire to feel the results.
Yeah, I think for me it's the notion that software and digital platforms actually also bring specific behavior. That so choosing your platform, choosing your technology also defines the way your community can operate. And so we were also looking a lot about how reflective and aware communities are in how they use the tools. And what I really like is that I see that this awareness now brings also new tools. So the communities come up with new solutions for how to make decisions, how to think about spending the money. So there's new organizational principles coming up, and the technology actually really supports those new organizational principles. But again, I don't think that's the ideal, because we will have to evolve. We have to rethink everything which is algorithm based. In a certain moment, we have to question. So that kind of awareness, I think, is there more than before, but that's definitely something for the future that we have to look into.
Well, we had many discussions with jury members what to choose from out of over 1,300 submissions. Everyone had their own
criteria and
exactly. And the piece that we selected, it represents the values that we were looking for, from story or concept.
Certainly did. We're actually looking for something that can actually make some statement of where the trend of this industry or cultural movement in animation is going. But there were a lot of great pieces, but it was really hard for us to actually come down to one agreement or one or two pieces that we were all happy with. But this was really one of the few projects we were all happy and we really enjoyed and engaged in. And this is called Vision by Boris Labe. And as Marie-Lise told us, it is an amazing piece. It is really basically engaging lots of hand-drawn traditional animation art, also engaging some emerging technology of using some plugins, or what should we call it? Like that computer-generated movement.
Computer-generated movement,
yeah,
that creates a sort of surrealistic
experience.
Also includes some like fractal-like
Yeah.
aesthetics.
Yeah, it really gives us something with, brings us to the place where we never ever been before. So it was a quiet experience, and that's why we picked this one out of 1,300 pieces. Yes. Well, we certainly did watch everything, right? And then at first we had to sort out some films or projects that aren't against our criteria, that doesn't meet our interests or what Ars Electronica is looking for. So that was our first layer. That was our first stage, right?
And of course, before discussing these 300 projects, we all went through the pre-selection process.
Yeah.
And I think on the first day, it was sort of finding out the dynamics between the jury members.
Right.
And the things that each of us represents, and tastes and
our backgrounds.
It
right.
was.
So first day was, we had a lot of arguments.
Setting a common ground
Right.
first.
It was a healthy debate, healthy argument to setting up the common ground and all this like knowledges each of us has coming from different background. So of course that all happened in the first day, and then because we had so much of big broad range in medium and how they are executed, we actually try to group them in different categories. That was our second stage, I guess, and then out of all, we started to focus on the most successful pieces of art, and yeah.
But finding this year's winner in a computer animation category wasn't easy. Because we needed to redefine what is animation for us.
Right,
There
right.
are so many other categories that also now include animation in
That's
different ways.
Yeah, yeah.
For example, in interactive art. So we had quite many discussions
We had until the last minute
about what is animation here.
Right, right. Yes.
What does Ars Electronica represent?
Exactly.
And how animation should be presented in this context? I would say we saw a lot of future imaginary words.
Right.
You know, scenarios, how the future would look like.
Yeah.
But also, I would say the theme of reality and virtuality is still very
Hot potato.
hot
I think
potato.
a lot of people talk about it. One of the things I was surprised by, though, I mean, maybe it's this year's submission, but we didn't get a lot of films that actually deals with the political issues or about natural disaster, for example, like some social issues. So that's one of the things we noticed in topic-wise. But of course, there are like range of and variety of stories and messages, you know, have been given from a lot of artists from the submissions. I mean, personally, one of the films that won Award of Distinction called Peripheria, I really loved it from the moment I first saw during our jury process. That actually hides technique in a good way, because it feels like it does use painterly or traditional painter oil painting look, but what actually it is doing behind it is actually using lots of emerging technology, like, or conventional film language, but we don't get to question it because it's so well done. So not only that, but also how it's driving the entire story was very interesting to me, because there weren't certain protagonists or main characters. It's this group of dogs, and we are just there to observe what's happening and realizing where we are and really be engaged in the circumstance until towards the end of the film. So that was definitely one of my favorites.
I think we all agreed that that was one of the films that really was complete.
Very complete, yes.
Yes, and like story-wise and aesthetics and technique.
Yeah.
So, and I'm very pleased and satisfied with the All Golden Mika winner.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
I think we really agreed on this film. So
Rizome. Yeah.
So I would probably say it was one of my personal favorites.
Nice. Yep. Yeah.
So we can be happy with this
We are
year's
very
Ars
proud of our
Electronica winners
Yes, yes, we are.
and nominations.
This project, it is a game that has not only manage to be on the status quo on what game development is at the moment, to maybe look retro and look very nice and colorful, but to tackle serious topics and question. And this 17-year-old boy managed to be there, to be on the edge of today, and he added some real innovations to that by the way the game works, by two people playing, not knowing what kind of game the other person plays, and also asking questions about why do I just follow the rules without considering what I'm actually doing, and so on and so forth. So he has managed to put so many levels into his project, and that's why it is the Golden Ica.
Yes, from the first moment I saw this project, I knew this is really something very special. It's unique in a way because it comes in. It appears as if it's like an ordinary, like retro style computer game, but the deeper message or the meta message is a real big one. It deals with life and playing with life. Literally, it's about life and death. The decisions you have to make in life, and even especially the decisions concerning moral or ethic questions.
And he wanted to make a statement, and he did not just write it down or just put it out there in the world, but he made a very complex, well-done game to make the statement, which is really a lot of effort that he put into it. So.
Right. It's everything. It's a lot of work, a lot of brain, a lot of smart tools, but a lot of work as well, and really hard time to put into to get it fixed. It's a challenge, I would say, but a very it gives you back a lot, because it's you have not many occasions as a grown up, especially when your own children are grown up already, and to dive into the world of childhood or was heißt jetzt Pubertät wieder? Puberty again, of young persons seeing the world with their eyes, having their needs and their demands and their no's and yes, and there you get it from really the age of 7 or even younger, like kindergarten, till the age of 19, and you see the whole range of growing into a world and dealing with the bigger and smaller questions of life and survival.
It's very inspiring because, as you said, you get a glimpse into that, and also, especially the young ones, they do not produce art for an audience, and they are not influenced by, several canons and several other artists, but you take it, but they just do what they think they want to do, and it's mostly for themselves, and you just have the privilege to be able to see it and have to express your thoughts about it.
Yeah. And it's really hard work because you cannot never, as a grown-up, you cannot see something through children's eyes. You must not think that you are able to, but at least you have to take it seriously. As a piece of art, a work of technique, or I don't know, computing or engineering, and you even have to let compete it with your measures, with your grown-up measures, because they deserve it. That we don't, like we duck because they are so small, and for a child it's good enough. Of course, for a grown-up we would just like do this. No, the contrary. It has to stand for eternity, or you know, it's when we give a prize, it's more than like a
lollipop.
Yeah, a lollipop. It's really because there is something, and we are convinced that it will last.
We owe them to be very strict in our decision,
Yeah.
because only then we can take them seriously. I am not sure whether the youngsters are thinking so very much about the future. I think that's an adult thing to do. They do think about their present, about the current state of the world and of their lives and of society, which is actually the more clever thing to do, because that's the thing.
Yeah.
We grown-ups always think about what will happen in the future. We worry and we hope and we build up for something that might happen sometime, but they take what is and work with that, and that is a very different angle and perspective, and that's what I really learned again in the past few days.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what to add, because that's it. They live in the very moment, very conscious for what they are surrounded by and what the problems are. They are, because often people nowadays say, well, young people are so unpolitical, and we were much more critic in the 68. We were going, you know, like demonstrating against establishment and so on. It's the same today, but with completely different tools and in a completely other way. But there is, the young people are as critics, as political, as, I don't know, sharp-minded as every ages before, in every ages before.
But not as cynic as we have grown.
Yeah, not yet. In the first moment, I thought, well, when I was 3 years ago, I remember there were much more interesting projects, because my memory, you know, made it into a like nostalgical aura of something, because we had awarded already, and there was a golden Nika, and there was the honorary mentions and so on and so forth. But looking together with all my other colleagues within the jury on the big screen, we faced from the first day on how much really, really good projects are. And this year there were really many projects on such a high level that it took us really until the last second we had to make our decision for all the categories. And this is a sign how high the quality was. It was not so you couldn't realize it in the first moment, because it was so widely spread.
The average was so high.
Yeah, but it was very, very, very high.
Yeah, I was surprised by how fast the standards are changing, because many projects that we got this year, which I considered like good, solid, but not like the tools that we are looking for, would have probably won the Nika a couple of years ago. So the standards are changing so very fast with the young ones, regarding to how they edit videos, how they do games, how they do everything. They are. I don't think we can catch up with that in a couple of, I don't know, days.
No.
They are really moving so fast. That is.
There is one big
impressive.
source which is called internet, and they have it.
Oh, yeah.
They can go there. They can go to every place in the world or in the universe even, and they don't need us to tell them how the world looks like.
They use it naturally.
Yeah.
It's their home.
Yeah.
We're just visitors. getting some cake and tea there.
Yeah.
I think we tried to look at aspects like breakthrough, cutting edge, people who try to explore some limits, what is again not possible in industrial and already working environment. That means this is really a creative environment, and this the aspect, the dimension of exploration and playing maybe with connections that don't happen in other circumstances. And I believe it is important to create some spaces where different point of views and different encounters can occur.
For example, playfulness. Yeah, we had one category called playfulness. Yeah, we invented our categories. Yeah, so as a little helpers for our discussion, and playfulness is something which is more difficult to achieve in the industry in itself, because to say hey, we play now with the technology, and this is more product oriented and more rational and so on, and this playfulness category was then the largest in the end.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, because people need more good mood.
We have seen many projects on data visualization, which is for sure a big topic of our times. We have seen several platforms, how people try to create platforms for collaboration, for innovation. On the one hand, platforms that offer knowledge, that offer competencies, expertise, that offer, and other platforms that offer material and concrete material and technologies to create things. We have seen how different disciplines are merging between nature, science, technology, architecture, and it is a very interesting signal on innovation of our times, because technology is developing very quickly at a very exponential pace, and now we need all the people around the table to keep the pace of evolution of technology and try to make the best out of it.
I think at first hand, Europe as a whole is a very large and diverse continent with many people around. There is innovative, and if you like to see more innovation, then I would say the institutions we have should appreciate diversity more, appreciate and not enforce diversity to become harmonic. Yeah, what we see, what as a criticism or a hindrance for innovation, I see practices like to force everything together and to say, okay, you can only be innovative if there is somebody from here and here and here and here and here. But to make different, to make it more, to let the people, live their diversity on their own, on a natural way. Yeah. So not to be too harmonic. Yeah.
And I believe in Europe, we need a new mindset for innovation.
Yeah.
I believe that innovation needs experimentation. It needs spaces.
Yeah, okay, that's right.
And need the mindset in which you encourage the initiative, you encourage risk-taking, and you encourage also failure.
Failure. Yeah, but I had something to add something very important.
It's-
We need what we need
Yeah.
is a mindset. That's an
Yeah.
immaterial thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we also need is more junk, waste, junk. Yeah. People should should have the opportunity to play with high-end junk. Yeah. To make something else out and to build it together, to wrap it around, to do something with their hands and fingers and so on. Yeah, and we are in a way in Europe what's too clean. Yeah, there is no junkyard with high-tech stuff in it where you can say, okay, play with it. Yeah, this is a difficulty. It's very simple, but if you look back in the past, especially Silicon Valley and so on, they had junkyards full of instruments from atomic submarines to play with. Yeah, to rip them apart and ask engineers and read scientific literature and to do something with it. Today everything is recycled and cycled and whatsoever, and so our young people don't have an opportunity to get their hands on high-end stuff, which is for free, like junk.
And maybe another aspect, coming back to what I said concerning cultivating a new mindset, innovation is a topic for all the people, not only university or institution. And it has to infuse in all levels of society and economy.
That's true. Yeah.
It's important. And there is another aspect. It is the notion, the definition of innovation. We are always looking at Silicon Valley. It is like it is the reference and the definition of innovation.
Yeah.
And it would be worth it to think about the own definition innovation. What does it mean for us to innovate?
Yeah.
And coming from a area where we work with very old and historical companies that are still existing today. Innovation is also reinventing and protecting the patrimony and the heritage, but to do it in a way that celebrates our times with our personality, with our culture, and with our sensitivity. And this aspect is neglected because we are always very quickly in the innovation as such, the product as such. And here we need to create spaces where we can address this kind
Not only that people ask if you talk about innovation, it's all, is it an app? And you said no, it's no app. Then then it's not like an app.
Yeah.
So this is it, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks.